Ooh, there we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another fantastic edition of DialogBOX. I didn't say I actually hit start, but whatever. Episode 36. I've done 36 of these, and you'd think I'd figure out some kind of standard with which to do any of this, but I haven't. If you're just tuning in for the first time and you can see my webcam completely wigging out. This is a podcast where I get to talk to the people that you like to watch. We talk about video games, talk about content creation, and the topics that are tangential to those things. So we hope you pop a squat, sit down. You can find us over here on youtube.com/Laughingboy. If you're listening to this on Spotify or your favorite podcast services, wow, thank you. That's awesome. I didn't even know if anybody was listening to it. I just post it. I literally just send it out to the ether. It asks me if I want to do ads, and I'm like, nah, I'm fine.
Nah.
Oh shit. All right. Did I not do the overlays for that? Yeah. No, you're wrong. Hold on.
I was all set and ready to introduce.
Everyone was all set and ready to introduce themselves as Alec and Stuff and Nintendo Fangirl.
I know. I was ready.
Someone had to call it out.
I mean, I am a Nintendo fan.
You are a Nintendo fangirl.
Just not the.
I'm just not the Nintendo fangirl.
That's right. Well, hey, at least I got myself right. So I'm Laughingboy LP.
I thought you were Elias Thompson.
Am I actually? Wait, hold on. Am I Elias Thompson?
There can only be one.
Says you. Oh, that attitude. And I'm joined by two very lovely guests while I get this whole thing sorted out. My laptop will probably die because I have to load Photoshop now.
That's exciting.
But while we do that,
I wonder if we'll be able to hear his fans through his microphone.
Oh, I hope so.
See, that's the thing. I have an eGPU, and I spent a lot of money on it. And you would think that it would, like, scream, but it, like, never makes a sound. And now I feel like I regretted buying it because I feel like it's not doing anything.
It's eGPUing.
It's ew. First off, not Alec and Stuff. We've got Twitch and finance director over at Zelda Universe and founder of Metroid HQ. We've got Elias Thompson with us. Hello. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Take a long time if you need.
I was trying to think of something really short to say to just put you on the spot, but oh well. Yes. Hello. My name is Elias Thompson, and not at Alec and Stuff with 4 Fs. He Laughingboy LP just gave me so many credentials. I am a public Metroid fan as well as a public Zelda fan.
Yeah.
I'm here to talk about one of those things today. Mm-hmm. Which one, you'll find out soon enough. Spoiler alert, read the title. And I'm excited to be here and defend some of my favorite Zelda games to people who disagree with me.
Why do you think you're going to have to defend? What if we all
Because
disagree?
I know both of you.
I don't like a particular one. Which one that is, you'll have to wait and see.
Mm-hmm. Well, Elias knows which one's my favorite, so.
Well, once they see your shirt again instead of Photoshop, they'll be able to figure it out too.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. They're actually seeing this physically. You can actually see my pain right now.
Behind the scenes.
Yeah,
this behind the scenes magic. We love it.
Ketchup is made. Wow. Fixed it. And you two slid in perfectly in place.
If tomatoes are a fruit, does that make ketchup a smoothie?
Sure.
No, if anything, it just makes it.
I mean, you can
Second off, we have
straw.
social media manager over at both Destructoid and Zelda Universe. We've got Mary Stowe. Hello.
Hi. Yes, I am social media director for Zelda Universe, and I'm also social media manager for Destructoid, and I am also a co-host for the Destructoid show. So.
And you don't have to talk as long because I finished.
Yeah, I was like, and about that ketchup question, I can circle back to ketchup, but it looks like we're good to go.
Technically, okay, so I see in chat, no, it cannot be jam because there are no seeds in it. If anything, it's a jelly.
What if you leave the seeds?
Then it's a jam.
Okay.
I'm glad I could bring enlightenment to everyone's lives.
Yeah, and I'm glad my face cam is just like, I can't deal with this anymore. So what the hell are we doing today? Today, the best part about this is I'm going to leave all of this in. So if you are listening to this on Spotify, you have no idea what the hell just happened. You do not get to see where the ketchup is made. You don't get to know whether or not it's a jelly or a jam. You should have watched the video. You should have gone to youtube.com/c/laughingboylp, and you should have watched it live.
I feel like you're sending mixed messages because you just thanked the people who do listen to it on Spotify, few as they are, for doing it. And now you're over here antagonizing them for doing that same thing.
No, just saying you're
I'm
just
a content
not
creator.
getting...
That's what I do.
True. I was like, you're just not getting the bonus visuals. To get the real experience, you gotta listen to it on Spotify, and you gotta watch it on YouTube. You gotta do both.
You have to do both. If you're not doing both at the same time so you can see the difference, spoiler alert, there are none, then what's the point?
Love it.
And also, no, if you leave the skin, then technically it's a day-old soup.
Oh my gosh.
Who said... Oh, I'm not surprised at who said that.
Yeah, what would happen if you add milk to ketchup? I think I've done that once or twice when I was in... Look, I've probably done that once or twice in elementary school. Like, you know, when you're bored and you already eat everything, and then you just start mixing everything together until it turns into a soup, I guess.
Yes.
A creature.
I have also been a child.
Why, yes, I have also been 5. Speaking of being 5, we're going to talk about video games. Because what else it's not my worst segue. Okay?
I didn't play a video game until I was 8.
You poor soul.
I don't know how old I was.
I lived in rural West Texas for a chunk of childhood.
Do Tamagotchis count?
Is Tamagotchi a video? Well, it technically was. There was a Game Boy game.
I mean...
So it is video game adjacent, which is what we like to talk about here on DialogBOX over at youtube.com/c/LaughingboyLP or on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. But today we're just going to talk about The Legend of Zelda. We're going to rank our own favorites. So we're going to go through the list chronologically in release order, not through the timeline. We're not going to talk about the timeline. I already did that last year.
Well, if we did the timeline, we'd have to do 3 at once.
Yeah. How do they stack up against each other?
Oh my gosh.
You don't... Isn't that why you have multiple... Well, okay, so here's the thing.
Rate the timelines in The Legend of Zelda.
Here's the thing, though, because as a content creator, I look at other content creators, and there are a lot of content creators that just focus on one series or thing about video. God, what is going on with my face cam? So the whole thing is like, you start to see that they have to create content like once a week or once a month, and they go on for like 5 years, and it shows because they're just kind of like, rank your favorite Zelda games if they were a sandwich. And I have to look at that, and I'm like, come on, guys. But then I had to look at just what I wanted to do if I wanted to just do one episode a month of this show. And I ran out of ideas after 5 months.
Yeah.
So we will be talking about our favorite condiments as soups eventually.
Looking forward to episode 100.
Looking forward to episode 45, really. It doesn't take long. I have an idea where I want to explain the Kingdom Hearts timeline because it's the most embarrassing thing I could ever do to myself. And I still haven't figured out if I want to do it while drunk or if I just let the whole thing just speak for itself.
No, just start sober and then just keep, and then you're drinking as you're describing it, and that way it'll just kind of, slowly get more chaotic as the timeline actually does.
You take a shot every time. You have to say the word heartless or nobody or whatever else.
Am I actually drunk? You'll never know.
Honestly, you could explain the whole timeline sober, and it would just sound like you're drunk.
What the hell's going on with this kid? They're adults now, and he has regular shoes. So we're gonna create the most definitive tier list of mainline Zelda games, and everybody is going to be happy with how this turns out. I promise. But first, we're going to establish a baseline. So, Elias, you were technically in the last Zelda episode, but let's do it all over again for the people in chat. Let's go around the table and see what everyone's experience is with Zelda, starting with you, Elias.
My experience playing The Legend of Zelda. I have played many Legend of Zelda games over the course of my life. Would you like me to be more specific than that?
Maybe like a little.
Okay. Yeah, not long after I was 8 years old. Let's see. First Zelda game probably was technically Link to the Past when I played it in a Bally's fitness daycare when my mom was working out with her friend. And then later on, I got to dig deeper into it when I had a Nintendo 64, went to Blockbuster Video, rented some Nintendo 64 games, including Ocarina of Time, played through that, got very stuck on Shadow Temple boss, whose name I forget, but it doesn't fit at all with the theme of the temple.
Boingo Boingo, the rock band.
I thought it was like Bongo Bongo, but I was like, no, that's DK. Just kind of fell down the rabbit hole. My first website that I made as a teenager was technically a Zelda website. I have made no secret of showing my fandom for the series ever since, despite its high highs and lows.
All right, awesome. And then, Mary, how about you? What is your experience with the Zelda franchise?
So, technically, I played Ocarina of Time first. I didn't know it was a Zelda game or what it was. My older cousin was playing it, and he was, like, at Lon Lon Ranch riding a horse around, and I was like, let me play the horse game, please. And so he let me just ride around the horse at the ranch for a bit, and that was it. So first real Zelda experience was GameCube Wind Waker, and I played it so many times, got Twilight Princess, and I played Twilight Princess like 3 times back to back. And I've just been going through all of them ever since. I feel like I picked up all the others pretty quickly. Like after Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, I was like, I need more Zelda. And so I caught up fairly quickly with like the series.
Elias, what's wrong with the poll?
There's very clearly an actual timeline on here, and it's the wrong answer.
Then pick yes or what. Those are your choices. And you can pick the poll choices if you'd like, as long as you head over to youtube.com/c/laughingboylp. I technically can create polls on Spotify, but no one ever touches them, so whatever.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so my experience with the Zelda franchise has been weird. So I pretty much got a Super Nintendo at the very end of the Super NES's lifespan. So like my first game was Donkey Kong Country, and I knew of it. I knew of the Zelda series, the Zelda franchise, but I wasn't really that interested in it because, and I still kind of carry this to this day, like, I like fantasy or like high fantasy, but it's not my favorite thing. And so I just haven't really shown any interest. But my friends had Ocarina of Time, and they really wanted me to watch them play it. And I was like, all right, like I kind of get it. And so my first 2 Zelda games were actually Ocarina of Time and Link's Awakening, both at the same time. I got both of them for my birthday. And it was interesting. I think before that, I had played the original Zelda 1, which, especially to somebody whose main video game experience up to that point has been Super Nintendo, is not the best one to start with. So that kind of was like, made me dislike the franchise even more for a little bit. But once I played like the 3D Zeldas and Link's Awakening, and it's a much smoother gameplay experience, at least at the time, I kind of got interested. Yeah, a little bit more smooth than Zelda 1 and Zelda 2. So I'll say that, easy. Yeah, and it's kind of like um I don't think I really started going ham into Zelda until like more recently, especially after like joining Zelda Universe. Because I would skip games if I just didn't like them, and we'll learn more about that as we get there. Down the list, there are just some games that I was like, no, I'm okay, I'm fine. I have them now, but at the time, I just was not interested.
Nice.
So we're going to go through each game chronologically in order of release. We're not going to talk about the timeline. The poll has spoken about which timeline is the best anyway. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through each game. We're going to say our ranking for it, why we think that way. Just give like a little thing about it. We don't have to go into too much detail. We can do that during the second round. The second round is going to be us trying to complete a combined tier list in which there are a set of special rules that we must follow. And I'm realizing that I should probably fix something in my Stream Deck because it'll probably be broken. I guarantee you it'll be broken. We got a new thing going thanks to our special artist Masay, who made some nice little assets for this show.
Thank you, special artist Masay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Full name.
Thank you.
I don't know why our parents named
Great.
Her. So what's going on in everyone's head right now as we start to go down the list? Elias, what are you thinking?
How
do you think this is going to go? What are you expecting? What are you hoping for?
By the end of this episode? Well, I'm hoping that I will be able to sell you both on my favorite to get it to at least either where I have it or within one of those. Basically, I just hope that I'm right, honestly. And I know you both well enough. I know you're enough of your Zelda opinions to know that will not happen. But that's my hope nonetheless.
Look, we love to dream.
I have some hot takes and maybe some cold ones.
Ooh,
semi-warm takes.
No, just ice cold takes here.
And it's only $1. Mary, what are you thinking right now?
I'm hoping for just a fun time full of friendship.
I'm just glad to be nominated.
I'm preparing for disagreements, and I'm trying to think of like how to like. I already know which one Elias is going to give me the most. Can I swear on this channel, by the way, or no?
A little bit.
Okay. I already know which one Elias is going to give me the most shit over.
Let's just uncheck the box that says made for kids. Okay.
Oh, that box has been checked a long time ago. My favorite thing about that setting is just the fact that it's like, this channel is definitely not for children. But that doesn't mean they can't watch. Like there's just a separate section over in the other like half of the settings where they're just kind of like, but like kids can still watch it if they want to. Like it's not, it's just not made for them.
But
they can still watch the ads.
Putting into words why y'all should do something. That's why I wish I could like just give you my feelings and like
just make a lot of hand gestures.
I don't know what to do with my hands. Perfect.
It's great, Elias.
Okay. So let's go with the very first game, the very first Zelda on NES. And we'll start with Elias. What did you rank it? What are your thoughts?
All right. So there's a near handful of the games on this list that I have played but never finished, right?
Yeah.
Until recently, the first Legend of Zelda game was on that list. I had played it a little bit, got a little too lost. It was a little, it didn't keep my attention well. I just stopped playing it. But recently I played through it. I beat it, inspired. half because friends were encouraging me, other half because of the hand-drawn game guide that came out, and I did use that quite extensively when I played it. It's a D for me. It's a bad video game. I'm shocked they made a sequel. It does not age well at all. Whoever thought using your rupee count for your arrow ammunition, I hope no longer is in the industry. Sorry, Miyamoto, if that was you. And yeah, it obviously has the groundwork that you see in all the other games, but that's really all it has. So it's a D from me, dog.
All right, Mary, what about you?
So I've also never finished this game. I have to say that. Like, I've played it, I've started it, I've tried to finish it. I just haven't gotten around to actually doing it yet. I also plan to use the hand-drawn game guide though to help me beat it one day. I was gonna give it a C though, because I understand the importance of, like, this was the first one. It obviously, when it launched, it performed well enough to carry on the franchise to what we have now. But as far as the game is for what it is, I feel like there's other NES games that have, like, perhaps aged better. I don't think it's aged quite as well as some of the other, like, classic games. So mainly because it was the first one in the series, it kickstarted everything, I think is where I'm gonna give it a C.
Okay. And as for me, as soon as my webcam can calm the fuck down, so for me, I also gave it a C, and part of that is because I agree with Elias, and I almost thought about ranking it a D, because it does not age well. It stopped me from actually experiencing the Zelda franchise sooner, because as a 5-year-old with very little patience, I thought it was, egregiously wrong that the sword only, like, went in one direction and that you couldn't really do anything else. You could,
only thrusts.
Yeah. No swing, only thrust. So with that in mind, the play control is very tedious, but it's not doable. And mainly the reason why I played it for last year's ZU-thon was because I was like, what's a Zelda game that I could reasonably beat in a short amount of time? And it is one of the games that I can more easily go back to because it's not side-loaded with a lot of fluff or side quests. And so sometimes when I just want, like, a quick Zelda game to play, I will think towards that one, because way less baggage there. So I rank it a C, and I almost didn't want to, specifically because I was like, well, because, like, it's the first game, so obviously you make it a C because that's the baseline, and then no, I wasn't going to do that. I rank each game individually based on their own merits. I'm not trying to say if this game is a C, then this game is a B. But for that, I gave it an average. For me, I can easily go back to it, but it is very frustrating at times, and it doesn't age as well as other NES games. All right.
Okay.
And we can see in chat that chat is divided between C and D. We got 38% on both. We have 25% on B.
Who voted B? Show yourself.
Well, how many votes was it? I didn't actually see the 9 votes.
9 votes, yeah.
So it was actually pretty much 3, 3, and 3. I think somebody got a B rank in there real quick before I ended it. All right, let us move on to Zelda 2. This will be a fun one to talk about. Elias, what did you think of Zelda 2?
I really don't think it will be fun to talk about, but I will admit that this is a game I have never finished. I have played a good chunk of it, but I have never finished it. That is for a good reason, because I also rank this a D. I would give it a lower grade if I could. But
there is an F.
Is there? What?
I thought. Oh, is there not? I thought there was an F.
There's no F.
Oh, okay.
I would give it an F. Well, I'll say F. Yeah. Okay, so they obviously, this was an experimental game. They tried to make it an RPG, but not really. It's a side scroller 100%, except for the overworld for some reason. The level of difficulty is just an immediate wall, and then when you finally start to get the hang of it, another immediate wall. Um, it's just not a fun game. And I've talked with several other people who have also thought that if this was not a Zelda game, if this was just some more generic NES game, this game would have been long forgotten and dusted off and probably put in a landfill alongside the ET games. Um, so it's a D for me. But what do you guys think?
Mary, what do you think?
So I'm also with Elias. I've never fit. This is one of the other Zelda games I've never finished, and I'm a very stubborn person, and like usually difficulty spikes and blocks don't hold me back from completing video games, but for some reason Zelda 2, I don't know. And I think also because you can get locked into level grinding really easily in that game, and that gets very frustrating. But I'm gonna have to also give it a D. And I
Fist bump.
feel bad.
I also gave it a D. So
Okay.
and
Yeah.
this
first
is
I'm
me.
agreeing.
This is for me, having known that I put an F in there, and I guess I don't know why it didn't add it for the rest of y'all. So for me, with Zelda 2, I could have ranked it lower, assuming there was an F tier. But for this one, I like its gumption. Like, it tries to do certain things that Zelda games in the future do way better. And for the most part, for me, it wasn't extremely difficult, but it's at a very weird place in Nintendo's history that goes alongside games much like Super Mario Brothers 2. And we don't fondly remember the Japanese version of Super Mario Brothers 2 other than to make reference to the fact that ours wasn't the real 2. It is hard for the sake of being hard to the point where it is unfair. And this is a company that hadn't really learned how to do difficulty yet, in my opinion. This is a Nintendo that is still in its younger age of, we made games that are so difficult that you'll want to play them because they are difficult. And that works to an extent. Like, we have the Souls games now that are hard to be hard, but a lot of people would say that it is a fair hard. Like, you feel like you didn't play very well, that's why you lost. But with Zelda 2, it's fine up until you hit specific walls. For some people, that might be Death Mountain. For some people, that's the very end of the game. Like, I can get through most of the game okay. But once you start getting to the last gauntlet, just to get to the final palace, it is just, they throw unfair stuff at you. There's no way to avoid half of it. You're going to take damage, and you just have to boost through it. So, and I have some people in chat that are just like, it is, you lose all of your experience if you either die or turn the game off.
And you will die.
And you will game over. Like, it's not after every single death, but like every game over. The original Japanese version is actually slightly easier because the experience cap is always 100, if I remember correctly.
Is it really? I need to start playing the Japanese version.
Yeah.
There's a difference to the Japanese.
That.
I think it's either the fact that you easily get to level breaks, but also you get to choose more specifically which thing you want to boost up, so you can more quickly boost up stuff that is more consequential to you than having to either choose the only one option or wait till you get more. So some people do like level 8 sword runs, or just one run of one particular thing. So it, unfortunately, it is not my favorite. And while I do like the things that it tries to do, I ultimately think that other games down the line do it better. And Nintendo learned a very big lesson between Zelda and Mario 2 and some of the games that come out for the Super Nintendo later.
It was definitely a learning experience for Nintendo.
Yeah.
And it makes me appreciate Metroid 2 a lot more.
Yeah, because they didn't just do something completely weird and different.
Not as much, yeah.
Not as much. It's such a weird thing, too, because almost every 2 in the NES era tries to completely change what the game is, and then they realize how bad that was, and then they just go back. It's like Castlevania 2 is not the same game as Castlevania's 1 and 3. But we're not talking about Castlevania. Now we're talking about Link's Awakening. Elias, what did you think about Link's Awakening?
Are we talking about Link's Awakening?
That is technically... Is that not Zelda 3 or is that Zelda 4?
That's Zelda 4.
Elias, Link to the Past.
Ah, yes. Zelda 3.
The true Zelda 3.
I gave this one an A. It's alongside some other later top-down Zeldas for me. It's definitely not perfect, but it is pretty good. And I have played this more often lately, in part thanks to like randomizers, and I technically am on the speedrun leaderboard for this. It's just a solid game, right? It took what worked in the first one, which was a defined list, and it expanded upon that. It fleshed that out. And you combine that with the story that happens, just like it looks graphically a lot more pleasing because of the technology on the SNES. It's a solid game that helped. A lot of people say it helped define the formula that a lot of games that came after it followed. So I gave it an A.
All right, Mary, how about you?
I can't remember. Is A the top, or we have an S
is
tier?
top.
It's top. Okay.
I have S through D, which doesn't make any sense from an alphabetical perspective. But
it does make sense in Devil May Cry perspective, so don't worry about it.
Okay. No, I just double check, because we mentioned there was an F, and I didn't see the F category. So I was like, okay, I just want to make sure before.
Your name is also Nintendo Fangirl, so I really can't help you with half of these problems.
Fair. But yeah, I'd give Link's Awakening an A. I haven't played the original though. I've only played the Switch.
Wait, what? Are you talking about A Link to the Past?
No, we're A Link to the Past. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I heard Link's Awakening. Sorry, my cat distracted me.
He did say Link's Awakening first. He thought
Link's
that was
Awakening.
Zelda 3.
Yeah. Okay, so we're talking about A Link to the Past.
Link to the Past.
Okay, this is where people are gonna hate me then.
Oh no.
I'm ready.
Peyton might like you.
I'm A Link to the Past, I give a C. It just, yeah.
Mid.
Yeah. So, okay, part of it is I didn't play it until much later. So I know I don't have the nostalgia, the power that drives a lot of decisions sometimes. Maybe I was just in like the wrong mindset to be playing A Link to the Past. I don't know. It was a good game. I just wasn't seeing it the way that I've seen people talk about it. Like, people talk about it being this incredibly amazing, super fantastic game. And for some reason at that time, maybe I need to replay it. I just didn't see it.
When did you play it, if I can ask?
Many years ago.
Eons and eons.
2012, 2013. Okay. So I'm probably due for a replay. Maybe now my mind will be changed, but this is I told you chat is like, what?
What? No.
So yeah, it's just average to me, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, I gave it an S, so, and mostly just because, so, I see like Gyro Knight in chat who's talking about like, if you started and actually like played them when they came out, I feel like 3 is like must have been way more of a a kick in the pants than it would be for me, who played A Link to the Past probably in the early 2000s ish. I mean, we were able to still buy the game new at a Target. Like, that's how long ago it was.
I miss those days.
Right? When you could buy video games at Target. Go to Target, everyone. They're not a sponsor yet, but, 5 years down the line, who knows? When I start talking about breakfast sandwiches, then we'll finally figure out.
I think I bought a Pokemon Ruby from a Toys R Us like 7 years after it came out.
I bought Pokemon Silver like the day it came out at a Sears. Yeah.
Wow.
Jesus. I'm old. But anyway, back to I almost said Pokemon. Back to Zelda. Whatever. So for me with Link to the Past, it, in my opinion, is what really, in terms of play control, in terms of what the game is, in terms of the advancements from the Super Nintendo, like doing the side quests, having like little mini games in order to get completion, it is, to me, still simple enough that, again, like I talk about with the original Legend of Zelda, like I can just kind of go back to it and just play it just to knock out like a couple, a weekend or something like that. But I think like the play control is super smooth. I think that it sets the foundation of what Zelda games will start to do from here on out, which is here's your first couple of dungeons, here's your fake out, here's the next set of dungeons, and then go beat Ganon. And it doesn't overstay its welcome, in my opinion. So to me, it really was like, especially in terms of 2D Zeldas, is probably my absolute favorite of the bunch. So I gave it an S. And I have to make sure I keep recording everyone's scores. All right, now we can talk about Link's Awakening.
All right.
So for this one, and this kind of starts, and technically I could have mentioned it with Link to the Past too, but we did not include remakes. We didn't include any DX versions, but feel free to talk about those versions if that either helps why you raised your score or why you lowered your score. So for Link's Awakening, Elias, go ahead and start us off.
Yes, Zelda 3. So, considering the remake is actually an important factor here for this, for me. The original was much like the Zelda 1, where I had played through some of it. It just wasn't able to keep my attention for whatever reason. I just stopped playing. But when the remake came out, I played through it, almost immediately. And I liked it. It was good. So if I'm pretty much just looking at the remake, basically, when I look at this game, I also gave it an A. It's a lower A than Link to the Past for me, if that makes any sense, but it's not quite B either, because it's also like a solid game, right? Especially in the age of the Switch, where everything's like either isometric or 3D or whatever else. This was a nice sort of return to form of top down, and it was very modernized. It kept the spirit of the original alive as best I could tell, and it was a nice little game. Also, it wasn't perfect by any means, but I liked it a lot more than I disliked it, so I gave it an A. It's last on my A list, but it is an A for me.
Interesting. Mary, how about you?
So I didn't have a Game Boy growing up, so I never got to play the original. So my only experience with it is the Switch remake. But it was one of those Zelda games that people always told me, like, you have to play it. You have to play it. Like, it's so good. It's like this gem of the Zelda series. It doesn't get the attention it deserves. And so when I played the Switch remake, I kind of saw the magic that people were talking about. Like that, I was just talking about like A Link to the Past. I didn't see what people were hyping up about A Link to the Past, but with Link's Awakening, I did see it. Like the characters are so charming, the environments, like it's just such a cute little game, and I loved it. Like I was like, I see why people say this game needs more attention within the Zelda franchise. So I'm also giving it an A.
Nice.
Is this Mary's first A?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Well, that's good because I also gave it an A.
Tight.
And really, there are like a reason and a half as to why I wouldn't give it an S. It is one of my favorites, like top 5 easy, top 3 probably number 3. But it for Link's Awakening, so I played the DX version around the time it came out. I got a Game Boy Color. That was right before, I think that was the same summer, maybe like a month or two before I got my Ocarina of Time and Link's Awakening. So that was Link's Awakening DX. I didn't even know that there was, other than the color dungeon, there being like such a difference. Like there are some quality of life improvements in DX that I didn't know about until much later. But yeah, I think especially if you really like Majora's Mask, like if Majora's Mask is your number 1, I feel like this is almost a predecessor to it. And the main reason for that is that it is so much more character based. And like my top 3 Zeldas are usually, the reasons why is because of not simply the storytelling, but like how characters interact with each other. And everything is just so friggin' weird about Link's Awakening, and it's meant to be. But it gives the ability for people to just go wild on things that you don't actually really see again, like a talking hippo, Mr. Right from the SimCity franchise just being in the game, just a bunch of different weird things and references that they make in that game that you don't really see as the series tries to progress to be more dark and edgy in some certain games. But the character interaction, I think, in Link's Awakening is such a good foundation for what Majora's Mask winds up doing like 10 times over. And it's all good. Like the dungeons are clever. The bosses are kind of tough at times, but otherwise like doable. And it's just fun to interact with everybody. The only reasons why I don't really give it an S is because, especially on the Game Boy versions, the play control is a little loosey-goosey. So, like, I just wind up getting hit a lot because I'm going too dang fast. So it's a little too fluid for me. And my half reason is because I don't think I'll ever play the Switch version ever again. The fact that a piece of heart is locked behind 2 hours of dungeon building tutorials is a deal breaker for me. Whereas I can
people who love 100%.
Yep.
And that's the other thing, because like I would love, the reasons why I go back to some of these games is because they are easy to get like all the heart pieces comparatively versus other games that require way more of my time and patience. And Link's Awakening doesn't require that much. But the Switch version, the fact that they locked it behind this thing that I get it.
Yeah.
Right? Like they wanted you to use Zelda Dungeon Builder. They thought it was a neat idea. It is a neat idea. Mm-hmm. But why do I have to play it every time? So for me, it was like a one and done. If I ever go back, it'll probably only be to the DX or the original version. So, but I gave it an A. Yeah, and you can steal from the store. It's a cute game. It's a super cute game. It's got a lot of heart.
I love it.
Looking up like the speed run for the Switch version, at least, like seeing when and what they choose to steal for like maximum time save. Good stuff.
Good stuff.
Nice.
Good stuff.
Next on the list, I am pretty sure is Ocarina of Time. This is like a huge gap between Zelda games, actually. Link's Awakening was what, like 1993?
Well, I mean, they had like re-releases with like DX, and I think they,
I think that was after
there was also
Ocarina of Time.
CDI stuff. There was also CDI stuff.
There was also
Oh,
that's right. Yeah, that we're not including in this tier list.
Aw.
It gets the F tier, which is somehow missing. How sad.
Yeah, it's crazy, huh?
It's crazy.
Zelda 5. and not 8.
That's
Ocarina of
crazy.
Time.
You crazy girl. So yeah, technically, it's like 5 years between a Zelda game. So we have Ocarina of Time for the Nintendo 64. It also got re-released for the 3DS. And then like every other system it got ported to under the sun.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a single Nintendo system that didn't have a method to play Ocarina of Time besides the DS.
Yeah, I think. Was it on? No, I couldn't. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Elias, what'd you think? What'd you rank it?
All right.
Mm-hmm.
I gave this one a B.
All right.
It, like the original, is important, right? It laid a lot of groundwork for 3D Zeldas, and honestly, like 3D games. I'll give it that as well. It also, I feel like, doesn't age super well, right? This was the first Zelda game that I really played, and I, loved every second of it. It's what got me on Zelda, right? You look at it now, and it's like nothing but crust everywhere. It's Nintendo 64, but is part of that. But I mean, I gave it a B because it's not a bad game, right? It's a good game, but I think lacks like some polish. I'll emphasize the word some, because it has like a great story, right? A lot of the gameplay is good. Some of the gameplay isn't. And so it's my highest B game, but I did end up giving it a B.
Had a burp there. Mary, how about you?
B for burp.
B for burp.
I'm thankful that I'm not alone in giving this game a B. I always panic with the older games because, like I said, like I didn't play them till like later. I didn't play them till much later after they came out, and like it really is a very, very good game. But as far as all of Zelda games as a whole, I just have ones that I think are better, that I connected with more, that have perhaps aged a little bit better. But like it's a good game. It's just not S tier for me. I don't know how to explain it. Like I don't have like major complaints about it, but I don't have major like extraordinary compliments, I guess.
Yeah, and for a really long time, Ocarina of Time and Link to the Past were always like the two that like battled for dominance. If you were to look at like other franchises, you had like Final Fantasy VII or Final Fantasy VI, like which one is the obvious winner or something like that. But for a really, really long time, it was like, oh, obviously Ocarina of Time is the best game ever made. Or no, it's Link to the Past, et cetera, et cetera. For me, I did give it an A. And for most of that is the 3DS remake, I think, helps in some regard. Like you'd be surprised what a fresh coat of paint does for a video game.
It looks a lot better.
Looks way better.
Yeah.
It's way smoother.
On the 240p screen.
It's amazing. But like the textures are improved. The character models are vastly improved. The movement is much more smooth. Like their entire animations are different. I played the 3DS version last year and finished it 100%. And then I played the current, like the actual N64 version using NSO like a couple months ago.
Ooh, NSO, that's a fun one.
That's a fun one. It's not the National Symphony Orchestra anymore, baby.
At least it's not the Wii U version.
Oh no, we will never do that again. I wasn't even there for that one. I remember waking up the next day and I was like, they're still doing this? I thought you had a schedule. For those in chat, what was it? Our second ZU-thon ever?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll just play all the HD. There's all the games on the Wii U. Surely we'll just play them all on that.
To be fair, back then it wasn't so easy to be like, I have a Nintendo 64, make it work on the capture device.
Yeah.
Most of them would just say, get out of here with that.
We had
crap.
our reasons, but we also learned our lessons.
You also learned your lesson, and now there are way easier ways to play that game. So I gave it an A, but it was mostly because, again, that's my first Zelda game, like you, Elias. But I guess I didn't see quite so much of the quote-unquote crust as I do with games like the original Zelda. Like, I love the original Zelda, but I can't give it an A rank, right? And the original and Ocarina of Time, both the N64 version and the 3DS version, do some really cool things. But what I didn't like was the Skulltulas, the Gold Skulltula quest. And this is unfortunately a trend that the Zelda series will continue to do for a long time.
Wild.
Yeah, they mastered it in that
900
game.
of them.
Yeah. So if you want to talk about how character progression became, like, Link's Awakening made the foundation of character progression for all these other games, Ocarina of Time starts the fuck you shit quests that later Zelda games have perfected to a T. Like, so what was it? I think it's 100. Yeah, it's 100 Gold Skulltulas. And
is it 100? I thought it was 50.
It's 100, but I think 50 are required for the heart, right?
Okay. So it's like the 400 versus the 900 too. Yeah.
Basically. So, like, all you do is, I think, up to halfway point. Yeah, it's 100. So you get to 50, you free all of his kids, and the kids give you really great benefits, and some of them are amazing, and I think the last one is a piece of heart. So if you want 100%, you get the piece of heart. But if you also want 100%, you got to get the other 50 that are just scattered about. And a lot of them require you to go back to dungeons that you'll have no other reason to go back to. Like, why would I got the boomerang. Great. Let me go back to the Deku tree for no reason. And most of them are uncovered by getting the last possible item that you get in the game.
Might as well just clear the game first and then go back to everywhere.
And then just because you feel like it. And I don't... and that's the other thing. This is also an era where Nintendo, like, just learned, what if we just gave people the worst rewards? 120 stars in Super Mario 64, what does that get you? 100 lives. Great, I'm done. Like, I don't need them. It lets you see Yoshi. That was like the playground talk of the day. Oh, man. That was so amazing. And then he gives you like 99 lives, jumps off the roof. Everyone like joked, oh, Yoshi dies in Super Mario 64. And I'm like, how? Finally. He just jumps off and just falls, disappears. And you just get like $200 for getting all 100 Gold Skulltulas.
Which at that point in the game, you have to already have like 1,000 rupees in your wallet.
Yeah, you are never strapped for cash halfway through that game. No. As soon as you're Adult Link, they are just giving you money out the woodwork. I never had any problem with money after I was an adult.
That's how it works.
To be fair, in real life, they just give me money. I just have to go murder like a bunch of animals. To be fair, they attacked me first. It's coming right first. So I gave it an A. It's great game. Some weird things that I didn't like about it. And so I think for Elias and Mary, you both gave B's. Mm-hmm. B's, boy.
B.
All right. Let's talk about the very next game on the list. Came out 1 year later on what I can only assume is a weird bet in the Nintendo offices.
You know the story of how this was made.
It really was kind of like a bet, wasn't it? It really was just like, I can make it in a year.
It was me and Odo went to Enuma. It was just like, hey, we need to like redo these temples to make like a Ocarina of Time temple X, extra
that was going to be DLC, yeah.
Something like that, yeah. And he was just like, I'd rather just make another game. He's like, do whatever you want. You have a year to do it.
Fine,
and
I don't even care.
Majora's Mask.
Originally called Zelda Gaiden, which usually is reserved for side games. Yeah. Boy, that is so different from how we know this game today. and timelines and nonsense like that. Everything counts. Elias, what'd you think of Majora's Mask?
All right. I also gave this one a B. In fact, I have a chunk of 3D Zelda games here in the B category, but this one is not as high as the B I gave Ocarina of Time. This is a Zelda game that was not made for me. This is too weird, too bizarre. The story, not nearly as good as Ocarina of Time. It had some unique things. I think more of them worked than didn't. So I didn't go as low as a C with it. But it makes a good companion, I think, for Ocarina of Time. It is a worse game than Ocarina of Time, but it is in a similar vein. But it's still just wildly different, despite looking, almost identical. So yeah, I just gave it a lower B.
Okay, Mary, how about you?
So this game was made for me. It's bizarre. It's weird. I give this game an A. I love the weirdness of it. I know a lot of people complain about the 3-day timer thing. That never really bothered me too much. I thought it was interesting. But the way you get to interact with all of the characters, follow their stories, or just sometimes especially first time playing it completely blind, you'll just miss things. And so it has a lot of replayability to it as well. And we're just talking about annoying side quests. What?
Elias ain't having it, apparently.
Nothing. I'm not going to interrupt. You keep talking.
We were just talking about annoying side quests and bad rewards, but you get rewarded. You get the masks, which end up being crucial at the ender part of the game. So, Elias, what are you laughing about?
I'm not laughing. Please continue.
It's an A for me.
So I actually So this is not a game that I have finished, but I've played enough. I have watched enough. I've seen people talk enough about it. I pretty much know 100% of the game, including the 3DS stuff. I did also give it an A. I think I kind of agree with you to an extent, Elias. There are certain parts of it from a video game standpoint that is not necessarily as good as Ocarina of Time, which is fine. But I think, as Mary said, part of it is in its potential replayability, in that if you're playing it without a player's guide, you have no clue. There's no, you don't have a water cooler at the elementary school. The game is short. It's 4 dungeons and a half. Right? So you go through the 4 dungeons, you go and do the last dungeon, and then that's, for the most part, it. But it took me 20 years to play it because I was, anxious about the whole time thing. And I would always get to the Bomber's Notebook, and I would just drop the game. Or not the Bomber's Notebook, but, literally just the first time you have to find the kids, and I'm just kind of I don't want to. It has the steepest entry fee for a Zelda game, and I get it. The whole point was for you to go around town, and it's essentially it lays the foundation for more annoying things in the future. Please play the game for 2 hours with no frills or anything really to do, just in order to figure out how to play the game. And then we'll give you a little mini dungeon in the basement sewers, and it's 2 seconds, and then you're in the observatory. I think for that, I graded it as a lower A. But again, I think a lot of the meat and potatoes of Majora's Mask is in the side quests. Some of it is quirky, some of it is weird, and that comes again from maybe just looking back at Link's Awakening and seeing how the characters interact. But also, it has a lot of moments that honestly, you don't see too much in the Zelda franchise up until maybe more recent games. It definitely has some interesting conversations and things to say about mental health that is just kind of in there. So it. The only reason why, because otherwise I'd probably give it a B as well, maybe a high B, but it took what, you know, it already has the Ocarina of Time's foundation with swordplay and mechanics and the engine and all that. So let's have some fun with it and let's see what we can do with more characters, more dialogue, more like side quests that actually mean something by the end of it. Like, to be fair, the reward for a lot of the side quests from completing the game 100% is way better than what Ocarina of Time gives you, which is technically nothing. So that's why I rank it a little bit higher. So I gave it an A. These next two games are going to be a little interesting for me. Where are we on? Yeah, that's about right. So the next two games are going to be interesting because I have not played them. I did not rank them. So I will listen to what you two have to say. And Mary, I think I has a similar thought. But Elias, what did you think about Oracle of Ages and Seasons?
All right, so I can't remember which one of these I played, but I played
Good
it
start.
up until maybe through the first dungeon, and that's as much as I've played.
Perfect.
I've seen other parts of it, especially through the whole digging simulator stream that I watch of it sometimes. And then I know that you can link the games for an extended story, so that's a cool part. I gave them a C, and pretty much everything that's in my C category is games I've only played like small chunks of. There's just a lot I don't know about this game because I haven't played, you know, most of it. But I think the fact that, you know, much like the original Link's Awakening, right, where I would play up to a certain point and then kind of like you were talking about where Majora's Mask early on, where it's just like, I just don't want to keep playing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll go do something else better with my life, you know, for a few more years and maybe try again later. That's kind of where I sit with these games. So that they're C for me. It's a very unqualified C, but that's, you know, where they are.
Mary, how did you feel?
So these two games are some of the only Zelda games that I have never played. So I don't feel like I can have much of an opinion on what they should be ranked. Like Elias, I have seen a lot of the Cody Davies shovel extraordinaire digging simulator. So I know there's a shovel. Yeah, I know there's a shovel in the Oracle games. I need to figure out how to play these.
So, you know, wait for the Switch remakes is what I'm going to do.
One day, hopefully.
Maybe. Yeah, I mean, I've played a little bit of Seasons. And I think, again, too, it's like the Zelda series, technically, I would say it really starts with A Link to the Past. We'll do these, like, intro sections. And maybe part of that, I feel like in Link to the Past excuse, it's really just, like, storytelling. But as you go further along, and maybe this is just me getting older, it is or tutorials masked as storytelling.
Yeah, 100%.
So
it gets worse over time.
And I don't think the Oracle's games are too guilty of that. But again, I'll start them, and for some reason, I'm just kind of like, I don't feel like it, and then I'll just put it down, and then maybe 5 years from now, like the last time I tried to play it was 2019 Zeuthon during the weekend, just because I had my 3DS with me.
Around the last time I tried them, yeah.
Basically. So I think I have another way to play it, maybe through the Analog Pocket. Unfortunately, that game, unless you buy it now on the 3DS store before it closes, you're gonna pay up. It's expensive.
I look forward to paying for those games one day.
I actually just bought Seasons at PAX while we were there. Yep, $60 cartridge.
That was just a card.
That's not bad. Yeah, for a cartridge.
Yeah, for just the cartridge, and it works because we have a Game Boy laying around now. So maybe
now you're obligated to play it.
And then now I have to play it. But
you paid $60 for it.
I'm trying to collect cartridges because I also ordered an Analog Pocket. So I'm like, I need games to like play, stream, record stuff from, like, once I eventually get my analog pocket.
In 3.5 short years.
Sitting right there.
Nice.
Yeah, we know.
You can't see it. Well, the stream people can't see it, and the Spotify people can't hear it. But if you go to my house,
I'm on my way. I'm on route.
Yes.
Yep.
On the way.
Yeah. So I kept myself from grading them. I am interested in playing them, but I haven't.
You've played some of a little. It was best. Sounds like about as much as me though, right?
I didn't get. I think I got to the point of the third dungeon. I think the other issue is that I think in some ways, and Minish Cap kind of does this a little bit, but like getting to those dungeons are a bit of a puzzle in themselves.
Yeah.
So
the Capcom Zelda signature.
Yeah. They made 4 swords. So I did not grade them, but it looks like we'll have at least some place to put it.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Elias.
Thanks, Elias. Next up, Wind Waker for the GameCube. Zelda, as some people called it before it came out. That shows my age.
I mean, I was there too, but I don't remember that particular name.
I remember
It makes sense.
I think it was like Electronic Gaming Monthly. It was a lot of people were like, "Oh, the people on the show floor called it Zelda for cell shading." And
well, and Wind Waker came out around the same time Metroid Prime, so I probably diverted my attention to greater and grander things.
Probably. This marks the first time I ever pre-ordered a game because I really wanted to play Ocarina of Time again on the GameCube. I thought that was the best pre-order bonus ever. More video game for
was
free.
That the pre-order bonus?
Yes.
The collector's disc or whatever?
Not the silver one, but the red one. So there's 2.
I have the red one, so maybe I pre-ordered it too.
Yeah, because you could buy it at EB Games. I saw them really late at EB Games for like way more than they're worth, which is technically $0 because it was free.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like it came with like Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask and then the first 2, right?
No, so that's the silver one.
Yeah, that's the silver because I have that one.
So the red one.
I thought maybe I have both.
You probably do. All right. Well, I'll let Mary go first. What did you think of Wind Waker, Mary?
So this was, like I said earlier, this was my first like real Zelda game. I'm in the series, start to finish, and you do have both, Elias.
So I guess I did pre-order Wind Waker.
So I absolutely love the Wind Waker. I love everything about it. I love the dungeons, the characters, the music. I don't care if people say I love sailing the Great Sea, even without the speed sail, whatever it is, the fast one that they added in the HD version.
Doesn't even know the name.
Because I don't use it. They gave it to me in HD version. I did not use it. I was like, no, give me my nice cruising, sailing, enjoying this music. It is an S tier game.
Back in my day, we had to go through the Great Sea uphill both ways. And we liked it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what did you grade it, Mary?
It is an S tier Zelda game.
S tier Zelda game. And Elias, what did you think of Wind Waker?
Not S tier. I know that one.
It is not S tier.
Athagorn is so upset. They thought you were gonna do S tier because you've invested so much time in it.
Yeah. I gave it a B, just like Ocarina of Time Majora's Mask. It's nestled right in between them, actually. Okay, look, Zelda's best whenever you're exploring like a nice green overworld, right? It's the best Zelda games. Sometimes you're on a horse, sometimes you're not. And they take that and you get a taste of it when you're under the sea and you see actual Hyrule. But no, 99% of the game takes place in a flat, blue, cel-shaded void.
It's not a void. There's islands.
The Great Sea or whatever you... Excuse me, please don't interrupt me. And, you know, it just took away a lot of what I liked from Ocarina of Time. it has its pros. The characters in it are some of the best. The dungeons, the few dungeons it has, just like Majora's Mask, is they're all right for the most part. So it's middle ground for me, right? It's definitely not a great Zelda game, but it's not bad either. So solid B for me.
Solid B. All right. I also gave it a B.
Are y'all serious? Like, it's a minimum. An A. I'm sorry. Continue.
I'm thinking about it, and I think in some regards it ages the best of the older Zelda games, in my opinion. But I don't know. They made certain design choices. I'm not sure why they did. And I think part of that is while I enjoy, and thank God the Great Seas music is good.
Oh.
But it also doesn't. Mary was here for friendship. In future games, boy, is it a problem. They tried to make it better, and they actually wound up making it worse. So there are certain things that I really do like about it, and I don't say B to say that it's bad. But in certain ways, and also with the original game, the Triforce side quest, because it's technically part of the game, is a major letdown. It is a major stopgap. It's literally just like a brick wall in the way of progressing, because it's pretty much right towards the end.
It's like
It's like the last thing to do. And I'll get into this conversation with the other GameCube Zelda game, because I got some words for that one. But this, I think, like, in terms of play control, is really smooth. I think it ages the best out of all the Zelda games. I think it does a lot of really good things. But it's just, there are just parts of it where I was kind of like, eh. So, B. Solid B.
Mm-hmm. Can we negotiate and meet in the middle? And
that's
give this
the second half. That's the second half. Yeah, we got a little bit more time left to go on that one. So let's talk about Four Swords Adventures. I've played enough of this to give it a pretty solid ranking. But Elias, what did you think of Four Swords?
I've played a little of this, about as much as the Oracle games, but it was like the middle of the game.
Yeah,
I was at the other Zelda marathon, and they play that in their marathon where they just rotate through people, and there's like, Elias, play this for an hour or so. I'm like, all right, and so I got some playtime in there. I put it a C along with the Oracle games. It's another unqualified one, and my last C game actually. From what I've seen, like the art style is just all over the place, conflicting. Like it's trying to emulate A Link to the Past and also Minish Cap and also Wind Waker, like all at the same time. And I'm not a huge fan of. But it's fun if you're playing with friends. I assume not as nearly as fun if you're playing by yourself, if that's even possible. I think it is. And it seemed very like leveled, like here's another level, kind of like Triforce Heroes, where it's just like, here's, you do this, now you do that, now you do that, now you do that. You're collecting like rupees or shards or something all the time, just like that as well. So yeah, it's a C.
All right, Mary, how about you?
Another one of the Zelda games that I unfortunately have not played, so I don't feel like I'm qualified to give it a ranking. Was gonna say I trust y'all's judgment, but now I'm not so sure anymore.
You can still trust her.
Yeah, you can still trust us.
Just wait until the next game when Chandra and I go at it.
2 games from now.
2 games. Sorry, 2 games from now.
So,
The rest of the list is in order, I'm sure. Yeah, to be fair, I was thinking about giving Four Swords Adventures a B, but there are certain elements about it that I think I have to grade it a little bit lower, so I gave it a C. And the main reason for that is I don't necessarily have the same issue with the graphics because I just feel like it's just a weird moment. It's a weird moment in let's take old game, put it in new system. So it looks fuzzier even on an upscaler. Like the game looks fuzzier.
Yeah, it
Things
does.
didn't just upgrade quite so hot, especially on a digital television. I think the fact that it's not just the fact that it is a multiplayer required for the best benefit type of game, but also you need like a lot. It asks a lot of 4 people to have 4 Game Boy Advances, one each, and everyone has to have the link cable. And there's only
not even the link cable, the GameCube.
The GameCube to Game Boy Advance link cable, and I found one at a Starland at my local Mon Pa game shop a couple of years ago, brand new. But like that took me forever, and I know the game comes with one, but like if you want your friends to come over, unless somebody else like, at least
also
they did.
bought the game.
To be fair, they did more than what Crystal Chronicles ever did, which was they literally just put it on the box like, hey, you need one of these. Oh, we didn't put one in. Like Four Swords at least gave you one in the box. But yeah, it was just kind of like it's one of those gimmicky games, right? Where it wants you to spend a lot of money in order to get the benefit of playing with 3 other people. And unfortunately, that's why I didn't play it for a long time, because who the hell was I going to find that wanted to play a game like this with me? Who happened to have that kind of money when we were 12 or 14, really. Like, it just wasn't feasible financially.
Imagine being a kid and selling your parents on getting you this game. It's like, but you also need the link cable, and I also need to invite 3 other friends. We're going to be together so often, yelling at each other,
often.
screaming.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, you'll love it, mummy.
And we also all need the Game Boys as well, which is a totally separate console.
Dude, if I went over to a kid's house and they had 4 Game Boy Advances, 4 GameCube to GBA link cables, and this game, I didn't like them for their personality. So I gave it a C. The multiplayer aspects of it, the game is fun, right? Especially when you are playing with multiple people. But unfortunately, it's a main series Zelda game. So if you want to experience all of the Zelda games, you're gonna have to. It's a financial endeavor. I mean, it already was. Let's talk about our next game, Minish Cap, and trying to buy just the cartridge of that on eBay right now.
Gosh.
You got lucky with $60 on Oracles. Minish Cap. Elias, you go first.
I had the fortune of buying this on release, so I paid MSRP for a nice box copy. I give this one an A. Kind of alongside A Link to the Past and Link's Awakening. It's another nice little top-down Zelda game. The graphical style I absolutely love. The Game Boy Advance, some of the best pixel-based games to exist graphically. And I wish they had made more top-down Zeldas on the Game Boy Advance. Minish Cap is pretty good. It's also a little light on the dungeon count, but it also kind of did that thing where it was like, just finding out how to do the thing was, a puzzle, and some of it's a little side questy, which is, it's not perfect, but I definitely think the pros outweigh the cons here by a mile. As long as you don't focus too much on the side quest stuff, because that's a rabbit hole. If you go down all the kinstone fusions and all the whatever else.
Yep.
I gave it an A, middle of the line A.
Nice.
Yeah.
Mary, how about you?
So I played this one for the very first time, just within the past couple of years. I didn't realize I downloaded it on Virtual Console on Wii U, and then I booted up my Wii U for the first time in a while, and there it was, and I was like, oh, well, this is happening now.
Good surprise.
Yeah, and I love it. It's everything Elias said about it, the way it looks. I love the music. It kind of has a little bit of that, not not quite the level of quirkiness of Link's Awakening, maybe, but like it feels a little different for some reason from all the other Zelda games, but in a very positive way. I wish we had seen more of Zelda on like in that art style. So I definitely have to give it like a very solid A.
Yeah, I mean, if Four Swords Adventures looked like that,
Four Swords kind of did.
It tried, but I feel like it just uses a lot of assets
like
from Link to the Past.
Yeah.
I gave it a B. So my main issue with Minish Cap is not necessarily like pretty much everything. Pretty much my reasoning for giving it a B is I think Elias's main reasons for giving it an A. Like it's graphically impressive. It's probably one of the best 2D looking Zelda games. Period. But I find the side questing in that game so goddamn tedious. The Kinstone specifically. And one of the things that I like to do in terms of a Zelda game is try to get 100%. It's like one of the rare series where I try. So, and when I did play this game way back when it came out, I did not buy it. I was a dirty, filthy cheater and I owned a flash cart. But ooh. Yeah.
This was the beginning of hacker
Laughingboy. That was the beginning of flashcards because you needed a printer cable to get it to work. And the printer cable plugs into the Game Boy Advance. I think I have the cable somewhere. It is totally unusable. Nothing takes it. Everything is USB now.
Well, you just plug in a series of like 3 adapters.
Game Boy to printer to USB adapter. But otherwise, it's a very solid Zelda experience. I think it has some of the most creative items in the Zelda series. I think it does some really cool things. Its intro, in my opinion, is way better than the Oracle's games. It goes back to that, like, it's an intro for storytelling, but also kind of tutorial. But it's at least interesting. It keeps my interest peaked the whole time. And it's quick. Most important is that it's quick. So... But I think in terms of like trying to get 100% or like trying to just go through the game from scratch, it's not a game that I would just be like, oh yeah, that's a game I just want to knock out over a weekend, like fun. It's the main reason why I just give it a B instead of anything higher. All right, well, we were gonna come to this eventually, but let's talk about Twilight Princess. Elias, you go first.
The best Zelda game for the Nintendo Wii. The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess.
And the Wii
U. Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess basically took everything Ocarina of Time, lauded by many at the time as best ever Zelda game, best ever game, whatever, and it took everything it tried to do and basically perfected it, in my opinion. It's not a perfect game, but it did so many things right. It's even if you play the original now, ages pretty well. And so, yeah, I gave it an S tier. It is no secret amongst, at the very least, those active in chat that it's my favorite Zelda game. And is, in fact, the only Zelda game I gave an S tier to. Yes, it's an S. I'll go 1 when I have to defend it.
Yeah. Mary, how do you feel about Twilight Princess?
So even though it came out on the Nintendo Wii, I played it on the GameCube, because that was the only console that I had at the time. But I love Twilight Princess. Like it's night and day going from Wind Waker to Twilight Princess, like with Zelda games, but it still captured me in the way that like Wind Waker did. The way I fell in love with it. It's one of the few games that I have gone immediately into another playthrough. Like when I first had Twilight Princess, I think I literally actually did play it back to back 3 times because I just needed to keep experiencing it. I just wasn't ready to let it go. I had to just play this game to as much as possible. And I love Midna. Like, she's such a wonderful character. And again, with like, I feel like I talk a lot about like the characters in Zelda games, but like Midna was one of the favorites for the Zelda series as a whole for me, so it's also an S tier Zelda game for me.
Well, normally I like to make the joke about how I think it's the worst, but really I gave it a C. Especially amongst ZU staff, it is not a shocker that I do not like Twilight Princess as well as other Zelda games. There's a big reason for that in terms of my own experience. So we had the original GameCube version. I did not play it. I wound up buying the Wii version, and I wound up playing that like early 2010s, like in the teens, something like that. And so if you've been paying attention to the conversation, if you've been watching us at youtube.com/CSASLaughingboyLP, or if you've been listening to us on Spotify or wherever your podcasts are sold, I have probably mentioned once or twice about the idea of an intro being used as tutorial. It is like 2.5 fucking hours. It is so...
You're really bad at it.
It is so... Well, like a first time. Just going through it the first time and experiencing it, which is the point, right? Like and a lot of what I base on is what I enjoyed about it when I first played it, but also would I go back to it. It took me years to go back to it because I was so fucking bored of herding sheep.
The goats.
What?
Yeah, sure. It is so boring, and you do it like 3 times.
Twice. Well, unless you want the heart piece.
No, if you want the heart piece, it's 4.
Oh.
I think, right? Like it's either you're either
I
right
thought it
or
was
whatever.
2 at the beginning and then a third for a heart piece.
Yeah.
Unless you're bad, then you do it 10 times.
Or you just play it for fun. You just like herding goats.
Sure.
How many times did you herd goats for fun?
I don't know.
For fun? There are video games that are all about that. You don't have to play a Zelda game for 2.5 hours just to get to the actual game. And what greets you, say, when you finally herd your last sheep? Goat. The most empty overworld I've ever seen in the history. You thought the Great Sea was empty? There are at least a couple of islands out there. The Hyrule Field is comparable in Ocarina of Time, in which it's a great big nothing. And I understand the point of it being a great big nothing is because it wanted you to do the horse battles. They built all this overworld structure for one boss fight. And so, for me, it's just like, thank God there's warps. The dungeons are fine. I find some of the boss battles, like 1 or 2 of the boss battles were tedious. I didn't enjoy a lot of it. I thought the game was fine, but especially when it comes to, again, how people hyped up the game as being best of all time. But for me, it just wasn't there. And I have no reason to go back to it because I don't want to do that tutorial again. Even if I can do it in half or a quarter of the time, right? It just... The edginess and the darkness of it didn't really make for a better gameplay experience, which I think was what a lot of people back in late 2000s, the late aughts were hoping for, because they wanted the darker and edgier Zelda, and they got it. I 100%ed the Wii U version, okay? So I gave it as fair a shake as I possibly could. I did the wolf dungeon. I did everything. I got all the stamps. I can't even use them anymore. I did as much of the game as I possibly could. And with all that being said, it's not the worst Zelda game. I'm not going to give it an F. I'm not going to give it a D. I'm not going to make any big jokes about it. It's just okay. The spinner's a great object. The spinner's a great item.
It is.
And it has a cool boss fight to go with it. But that's a very minor percent of the game. 2 hook shots is cool.
Are you telling me you didn't opt to use the spinner to traverse Hyrule Field instead of the horse once you had it?
By then you could just warp. By then you weren't really going through the field at that point. I thought that the collecting side quests weren't so bad. I thought that Mallow's a great character, just as a static character. Midna, I think the main reason why people love Midna so much is because she actually has a complete story arc, and a lot of the other characters just show up. Like, I don't care about a lot of the people that the game makes me want to care about. So, and I feel like that's because they really focused on one aspect of the game, and it wasn't the characters. So Midna's a great character because she actually has a full story arc. And then the rest of the characters are there because they need to progress the story along. And then that's about it. So yeah, it's fine. But it's not my favorite Zelda game. And that's why.
So we're not debating where these are placed yet, right?
Nope.
Not yet.
Okay.
So that'll be fun.
Okay.
All right. So, oh, whoops! I already marked yours. Okay. So the next game on the list, easy pickings. All right. Phantom Hourglass. The DS era of Zelda games. The one that made me stop playing Zelda games. You want to talk about a bad Zelda game? Let's talk about Phantom Hourglass. Elias, you go first.
D, you are right. It is a bad Zelda game. It took the Blue Void AAA Zelda game, literally watered it down into a DS title with horrid controls.
Yeah.
And I think I played through this game once, maybe twice when I had to. Like, it's I like Wind Waker enough to say it deserved a better sequel. So yeah, no, it's a D. I put it below the first game, but above Adventure of Link.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. It's not like Okay. Mary, what'd you think?
So it came out on the DS, and I'm also giving it a D. Yeah, I feel like after playing like Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, the bar was set kind of high. And then I was very excited to finally get a DS and finally play like more Zelda. And then I was greeted with Phantom Hourglass, which is, there's just not a lot nice to say about it, unfortunately.
Some of the music that wasn't reused was good.
Yeah. I like Lineback, character, but
it did in fact introduce Lineback.
Yeah, good character, but Temple of the Ocean King is a nightmare. I know there's people out there who are like, "Oh no, like people over exaggerate." I'm like, no, it's a pain in the ass. Like,
no, they didn't.
Some people you just say Temple of the Ocean King to, and they just like are flooded with bad, horrid memories.
Because if you learn how to optimize it, of course it's the same argument that we want to make about the tutorial in Twilight Princess. If you know it, it's faster. Great. That doesn't make your first experience with it any good. And to have to go through it 8-ish times is Gah.
Too many.
Yeah, I gave it a D.
Okay. I'm glad we're all agreeing again.
I bought the DS Lite, the Phantom Hourglass edition. I got it bundled because I was like, cool, it looks cool. I like it. But this was at a point when you had finally a competitor in the handheld market. You had the DS, and after the Game Gear fizzled out in the late 90s, you now finally have the PSP. It's a nut you can play with outside. And do you not remember that commercial, Elias?
No.
Oh, y'all blocked it out of your collective memories, didn't you?
Maybe.
All right, I'm gonna show it after the stream.
Okay.
It's bad. It's probably it. I think it got the ad agency fired. So anyway, so you had traditional gameplay in the PSP, like console experience in your hands, blah blah. And then the DS, which was like, no, we want to try something new. Let's have 360 control using the touchpad. And you're either a Nintendo fanboy at the time and you were constantly raving about how the touchpad is going to change gaming forever. And then you played Phantom Hourglass and you realized that touch controls were shit. I think it has the worst play control of any Zelda game. And midway, I think it's like 3/4 of the way through the game, because you can talk to all the dead people inside the Temple of the Ocean King. They're supposed to give you helpful hints. And one of them literally just complains about people who complain about the touchpad. Like, I'm not kidding. It's literally just a jab at people who didn't like the touch controls. And they were like, well, maybe if you'd learn it, then you'd be better at it or something like that. And it was not a good way to convince me that the DS was the future of gaming, except it did become the future of gaming for like 10 years. So yeah, I've played it once. I put it away. I was so dissatisfied by that experience that when the next game came out, Spirit Tracks, I went, nah, I'm not going to play it. If it's anything like the last one, I have no reason to ever play it ever. So, but let's talk about it. By the way, still haven't played it.
I will say, have you still not played it?
That is the second to last game on this list of games that I have not finished. But Elias, did you happen to play Spirit Tracks?
I did happen to, in full. I think more than once, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, you know, whenever you do Zelda charity marathons and you have a DS capture, you have to make sacrifices.
Well, it's one of two possible games I could play.
Yeah.
3 if you happen to have the anniversary Four Swords, yeah.
Yeah. I gave this one a D.
Okay.
It is technically an improvement to Phantom Hourglass. Like their version of the Temple of the Ocean King, they fixed the biggest pain point about it. The music in it was pretty good. This might be probably the most personal of like reasons I have for ranking a game. I just don't think trains have a place in The Legend of Zelda. I'm not a train guy. When I play Zelda, I expect it to be a good level of fantasy, and then you just have a whole culture here around trains. But let's make them spirit trains or something.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it was like everything that it improved, it just kind of got knocked back down due to the core premise of the game. So it's a D, and I technically put it below Phantom Hourglass. Still above Adventure Link.
Mary, how about you?
So, I've played Spirit Tracks quite a few times. I do enjoy it. I have fun, aside from the instrument and having to blow into the microphone. Okay, try playing that on the Wii U, by the way. Try doing the Wii U version and trying to blow into the microphone of the Wii U. Anyway, it's better than Phantom Hourglass. Like I said, I want to rank it higher than it deserves, but I know it doesn't deserve a B, so I'm giving it a C.
Oh, okay.
I'm being honest with myself there. Well, and you get to like actually have Zelda as someone who's with you throughout the game, and this is the Legend of Zelda, and it's something I wish they would do more throughout the series, is like make her like more present.
Prominent,
And yeah. And like just that opening cutscene where you really get to see her little personality shine through, like it's such an iconic little moment for Spirit Tracks, where like she's kind of making fun of like, I'm supposed to be the princess, you're supposed to save me, and she's finding out that like the bad guy wants to possess her body basically, and she's like, he wants to do what to my what? And she just cracks and loses the princess persona, and it's hilarious. And like I laugh every time. So, but it's a C. As much as like the good moments are very good, it's just a C.
I never had a huge issue with this myself, but the little pan flute microphone mechanic right? That's a huge like uphill battle to get right because they try to make it more complicated, but it never gets any easier. You're still struggling the whole way time. I had a friend who played through this game and hit a wall with that. Like the second to last little flute part, he's like, I can't get past it. I was like, yeah, it took me a while, but I eventually got past it. He goes, you're gonna have to do it for me at some point. Because and he lived in like Colorado or something like that. And he's like, you're gonna have to do it. Well, finally, the very first time we ever met up in person, he brought his DS with the game loaded, ready to go. He's like, please get past this for me. It took me 2 or 3 tries. I got past it for me. He goes, like, oh, thank you. I can finally progress in this game.
I look forward to one. I have it, you know. That's just one of those games that I bought later, but I still have. I'm just not terribly interested. Yeah. Honestly, it's a game that just didn't really get talked about when it was out. Like, I feel like this was at a time when, personally speaking, I feel like the conversation around Zelda was very quiet. And just not a lot of people were constantly ranting and raving about Zelda. And I wonder if
like Spirit Tracks, you know.
But then when I did hear people actually talking about Spirit Tracks, it wasn't good. So I was kind of like, well, all right, maybe one of these days I'll play it. But instead I played Skyward Sword instead, which is our next topic of discussion. And Elias, what'd you feel about Skyward Sword?
I gave this game a B. It is my lowest and final B, but a B nonetheless. I feel like I was thinking about this while we were talking about some other games. It tried to combine in a lot of ways Majora's Mask, The Wind Waker, and Twilight Princess, but it didn't take the best things from them to combine.
Yeah.
The story is obviously one of the most emotional and probably best stories in a Zelda game, right? That's shoehorned into the game almost to a fault, because it affects gameplay so inherently with just how linear, maybe not necessarily how linear it is, but how linear it seems, how much you have to go to the same places over and over and over again to do just random little things to satisfy some story requirement. This is once again another game where instead of a nice, luscious field full of things that is definitely not empty, you are instead met with an actually empty, with an occasionally floating rock, just like a floating island, void of a sky. That is no longer a blue void, but a dull gray void. So, combine that with a difficult to control horse bird. Yeah, it's a low B for me.
And Mary, what about you?
I love Skyward Sword so much. It is near and dear to my heart. I am dead serious. Like, no joke. He says,
looking at the shirt.
Yeah. No joke. Obviously, it is my favorite Zelda game. The story, the music. I like the art style. I know a lot of people like to complain about it. I think it's just, again, referencing Twilight Princess. We go from day Wind Waker to nighttime Twilight Princess to we're back in like this very bright, colorful environment in Skyward Sword. And I will acknowledge it is not a perfect game, but to me, it is probably one of the best Zelda games in terms of music, storytelling. We get to see the beginning of the timeline, if you will. It's the first quote unquote Zelda game, and all the events after it are because of this game. So therefore it is S tier for me. I love it so much.
So I'm usually like the jokester here. Like I always talk about Skyward Sword is S tier, you know, because there's 2 S's in the name. Like, of course, I did give it an A, and the main reason why I gave it an A is because both it and Twilight Princess have the same problem, in my opinion, of vastly overstaying their welcome. I didn't mention it when I was talking about Twilight Princess, but whatever. I blanked out. And really, the issue is that at some point, you just kind of go, there's more. And I think that was the Twilight mirror for me in Twilight Princess. I was like, God. And then for Skyward Sword, it was like going back to the dragons. And like Elias says, you are constantly going back to the same places. But on the bright side, it's never the same place every single time. So there are different things to do. Some of that is good and bad. Unfortunately, it gets very tech demo-y at times. They really wanted you to do the thing with the Wii remote, so you're constantly either swimming or flying. And I remember the very first time I played it, for some reason, I couldn't. The very first time I played it, I couldn't get past the tutorial where you have to like land perfectly and hit the paraglider. I don't know why. But like for some reason, 19-year-old me couldn't figure it out, and then 14.
I think I failed that once or twice.
23-year-old me figured it out.
No good reason.
No. And again, for tutorial intro, it's not quite as long, but it can be somewhat tedious. So somewhat tedious is the main reason why I don't give it an S. Like I can't, and unfortunately for me, it kind of goes with this trend of I think the 3D Zeldas are good, but I prefer the 2D ones. Like all of this tier list to say that I much rather enjoy the 2D Zeldas for their base simplicity than I do the 3D Zeldas and how long and how much they ask of your time and energy. And Skyward Sword is definitely guilty of that as well. I don't really have the problem that everyone else had with linearity. I thought almost every Zelda game is linear. Like I don't really get that. But I think maybe it was just that was like the final nail in the coffin for a lot of fans and why Nintendo eventually had to do a paradigm shift. But before that, we have Link Between Worlds, the only, for this purposes of this tier list, 3DS Zelda game. Elias, what did you think about Link Between Worlds?
I gave this one an A as well. For the most part, I liked a lot about what it offered. It was a very nice spiritual successor to A Link to the Past. It was basically, what the Link's Awakening remake did on the Switch, this did on the 3DS. It was a nice sort of like glow up, so to speak. I think that's what the kids say. The non-linearity of the last few dungeons was fun in terms of like, as long as you had items, you could just go to do. I accidentally did the last one first in my first playthrough. So I did like that about it. The whole Ravio renting and buying items things is probably the worst thing about this game. I wish they had found a different way to involve Ravio than that. And have like, just all those non-linear dungeons hold one of the items and then you could mix and match them to go visit other dungeons that might need them, right? So that part, I is probably the major downside, but the story is great too. There's some compelling characters in this as well. I gave it a solid A, right next to Minish Cap there.
And Mary, how about you?
I had a hard time actually placing this one because I thought I was gonna give it like an A, because when I remember playing it for the first time, I loved it so much. I think it's a great game. I think it's very, very good. But then I played it recently within like the past year again, and I was just kind of like, where's the magic that I felt, the first time? And like, I don't know why I got hung up on the renting system. I forgot how bothersome that was, because then I just felt like I was so focused on grinding for money, which I mean, it doesn't make it too hard, to get money in that game, thankfully. But still, I was just constantly panicked that like I was going to game over, that I was going to lose my items. I was going to have to go get more money to rent them. And so, as much as it breaks my little heart, I have to give it a B. I just don't put it quite up into the A category for some reason.
Right. Yeah, I'd heard that was always a big issue with Between Worlds, was that it seemed like they were trying to listen to fan feedback of not making the game too linear and giving you options, but still holding on to a traditional Zelda, especially we can't. I guess you can call it a top-down, not a 2D. So I have not actually played this. I do have it. It's just another one of those things where my 3DS. Don't even get me started on my 3DS backlog. It is the worst. The fact that I just finished Ocarina of Time 3D last year gives you an ample idea. And I have a box.
That's a 10-year-old game.
I have a huge box.
10 years old.
Yeah. I can't get it right now because we're 2 hours into this. But like, otherwise, I would just go through. Haven't beaten it. Haven't beaten it. Haven't beaten it. No, the 3DS was a bad time in terms of trying to complete everything that I owned. And unfortunately, Link Between Worlds is one of those games. I am looking forward to it, but I'm interested to see how that rental system plays into the actual gameplay. And now, on to the last game before we go into our tier list. The second half of this is actually going to be pretty short, surprisingly. But let's talk about Breath of the Wild for a minute. Elias, what did you think of Breath of the Wild, the game for Switch and the best game on the Wii U?
I liked it.
It was good. Liked it enough to give it a letter?
This is my highest A. I didn't quite give it an S, but yeah, it's a good game. I put, hours into it, right? I was in a unique situation with this where we did that marathon with the game. So I was like, I had seen the entire thing, but then I came home from that and immediately just, started my own file, and I was still just as hooked in the entire thing. Exploration, top notch. I'm still not quite satisfied with it, but it had a good graphical sweet spot for a lot of people. So the area I think that's this is a total 180 from Skyward Sword, their last big console release, right? Where story, go here, go here, go here, go here, go here, to just here you go anywhere. But the story suffered because of it. They did the best they could with the format they sort of chose, I think. I still think they could have, put more like the present story in the game alongside like a main quest. So that's kind of why I didn't give it an S. But everything, it's a great game. Yeah.
All right, Mary, how about you?
I love Breath of the Wild. It's again one of those games that sitting down, getting to play it, just that sense of discovery, curiosity, finding your way across Hyrule. I appreciated kind of what Elias was saying, where they just kind of throw you in and it's go. And I like that in video games, especially open world games. And it was literally I could go anywhere, everywhere that I want. I do wish they had, I do agree with some fans that I miss traditional dungeons, because those do feel like a staple to the Zelda series. But at the same time, do we need that? Was this a necessary break the mold moment? Was this, something that the Zelda series needed to stay modern, stay current, amongst all these other open world games that are getting great reviews and great feedback from various parts of the industry? I loved the characters. I liked the different types of weapons. I do wish there was a little bit more variety, but altogether, I do think I have to give Breath of the Wild an S. Because I have more love and more compliments for the game than I do these little things that I've said that are, I guess, negative. They feel more like nitpicks to me. They're not make or break things for me.
I'm sorry, and what was the letter grade you gave it?
S.
S. Got it.
Yes.
I gave it a B. And the main reason why is kind of what with Elias was saying, how I feel like in terms of making it an open world game, it does change a lot of the Zelda formula, hopefully for the better in the future. But also, I, as a person who plays other games, I can see how other people who have had more time to work on open world games are able to incorporate a big story without necessarily hand holding the player and leading them from one place to another. I do like the breakable weapons. I know that that's like a huge pain point for a lot of people. I actually really enjoy it. I think the issue with the tutorials is still there. I think somebody tried to argue with me at some point where it's like, oh, no, there's no tutorial. Like, you don't see it in Breath of the Wild. I'm like, did you play the same game I played? Because you have to do like 4 mini dungeons just to unlock your iPad. Like, there are things that you still have to do fundamentally in order to actually get it. It is literally not, we drop you down and just go ham. You're barred to an extent. And I think part of that is nice. If it's your first open world game, that's probably going to be pretty helpful to like keep you within this playground until you get used to it. But of all the old game things, of all the old game difficulty things that they could have kept, I actually like we're going to give you the whole world map on the get-go. If you go over there and you're not ready for it, you're going to die, and that's how you learn. And Zelda Breath of the Wild does that to some extent, but I just feel like part of it is they could have enhanced the story in ways. I feel like the fact that they had more story in Hyrule Warriors is off to me, even though it goes in a completely, different direction. So with that, I gave it a B. The gameplay is great. The story and the characters are there. They're just not there in the way that like Link's Awakening and Majora's Mask and Skyward Sword had them. There's, maybe fortunately you could say it keeps you wanting more, but that's why I didn't give it an S. So yeah, I'll give it that. And with that,
we did it.
Yeah, we did it. I didn't even talk about Link's Hyrule training or crossbow training.
Link's Hyrule
training. Technically, that's the first half of Breath of the Wild. And so,
well, first 2/3 if you speedrun it.
Yeah, first 20 minutes apparently. I need to figure out how this is going to work because I will not be able to monitor this. It is time to go. I can't tell if it worked, honestly. It's time to go to the footage board. Can you check to see if we're on the footage board? You might have to wait.
Probably a 10-second delay, but
yeah,
I'll go back.
Yeah,
I'm watching.
While we do that, so using Tier Maker before the stream, we've all gone through. We've talked about our favorite Zelda games. We've talked about it on the stream. We've spent the last hour and a half doing that. And now, for our final bit, we are going to make the definitive tier list. However, there are some rules. First off, if all four, no, I keep saying all four even though it's just 3. If all 3 of us rank a game with the same grade, it automatically gets placed into that rank, and it will not be part of our debates. Second, if there's a majority ranking to 1 tier grade for a game, it'll be up to the people who did not rank it the same to defend their decision before those who did will debate as to why they believe the game deserves the grade that they give it. So if 2 S's and an A, we either compromise or you argue for the A. Mm-hmm. If you have not played it, you don't have to tier it. Don't worry about it. But here's the thing. You may have noticed these lovely little coins attached to our webcams. I think hopefully that worked. Did that work?
Yes, I see my coin.
Did mine go away? Yeah.
I don't know if yours went away.
All right. I'm hitting it a lot. Anyway, these coins are called stubborn tokens. You each get 1.
Stubborn tokens.
Yeah.
Each token can be used
whenever... I really
should
have read these rules.
You really should have read these rules.
You should have.
Each token can be used whenever you want to during... Well, okay. Here's the thing about I changed the rules slightly from what I wrote in my notes. So the way that this actually works, okay? So we have a stubborn token for the chaos that will ensue for the next, hopefully, like 10 or 15 minutes. We can use during the debate to place a game in any spot on the list, no questions asked. You can only do this for the game that is currently up for debate. Once the game is on the spot on the tier list, you cannot move it. You only get 1 token for the whole stream, assuming that it actually disappears when I hit the button. I thought I tested this. So, with that all being said, let us place the games on the board. We have.
So hang on. We're once we place it on the column, it's their set final.
It is their
we
set
have
final.
to say that we use the stubborn token before that
during the debate. So you can't just. We haven't talked about Twilight Princess. You can't use your token right now.
Yeah.
We gotta wait till we get it, and then you can drop the hammer. And you can either use it to put it in S tier, or you can use it to put it in F tier, which I should delete because we're not doing F tier.
Okay, I was wondering about that.
So right now we've got Zelda 2 over in the D column. We have Link's Awakening over in the A column. If I can just find Link's, I thought I ordered these. We've got, when's the next one? Technically, we've got the Oracle's games in the C column because only one person voted. We've got Four Swords Adventure over in C as well because 2 people voted for that. And we've got
so far I'm 5 for 5.
Phantom Hourglass gets a D. Spirit Tracks gets a D, which is fine because I put them, in reverse order.
Oh wait, I thought someone put it as a C.
I put it as a C.
Oh, you did? All right, so I'll let you 2 fight over that. And then that's it. Those are the only games where we actually actively agreed on where they were placed on this list. So now we must go back to the past. Samurai Jack, and start with Zelda 1. So I gave it a C. Mary gave it a C. Elias, you were the one to give it a D. Do you want to just forfeit your D, or do you?
I mean, it was my highest. I don't want to forfeit my D, but it was my highest D. I hate this. I hate it here. It was the highest D that I had considered. This was easy for me to make because I had an ordered list of every game. I just had to figure out where the tier cutoff was. I can compromise and say it's a low C. Okay. I still have probably what's best described as a personal grudge against it now. But that's
especially after this.
That's a compromise I'm willing to make for sure.
All right. So we'll put it there. Right, next on the chopping block is Link to the Past. I give it an S. Elias gave it an A. Mary gave it a C. This is going to be a weird one.
I know I'm in the minority, so if y'all want to argue over the A or S, go for it.
You just really like to come to an A minimum.
I don't have a compelling argument for it, and I know I don't. It's just my personal view of it, and I know I'm in the minority of Zelda fans with this game, so
I'm willing to average it out as an A. How about that?
I think an A would acknowledge Mary's low opinion without being ridiculous.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. Technically, that's how grades work, I suppose.
Yeah, totally.
Next up is Ocarina of Time. I gave it an A. Elias and Mary gave it a B. So I guess it's my decision my turn to try to debate as to why I think it's an A. And personally speaking, while the game has its glitches and why it helps with speedrunning, I also don't...
I didn't know we were bringing glitches into this.
Well, when you talk about whether or not it ages well, yeah, it's got its problems. But, unless you're dicking around, I don't really see how you're going to find half of them. I think, I could compromise on this one and probably give it a B. But in general, I just found this was my entryway into the series. Technically, it's the first game I really played from the Zelda series, and it's pretty much the main reason. If this game was bad, if my first game was Phantom Hourglass, I wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be talking about this. I wouldn't even care. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird for me. The original Legend of Zelda, this is my highest B, so I could be convinced to come to an A. But it's also, I think, what Mary had talked about with her, what was it, Link Between Worlds, was it? Where she,
I wanted to give it an A, but I just couldn't.
Kind of, where she played it the first time and it was just a great, and held nostalgic memories for it. But then, when she played it again, and I've played Ocarina of Time multiple times since I was a kid, it's never been like great for me. And maybe that's because I've only played it after Twilight Princess come out. Every time since, but yeah, like I don't know. I could do B or A, but I still have it as a high B.
Well, I'll use my token then. I'll give it an S. Whoop.
Okay.
Okay,
jump from the A to S.
Oh, whoops.
That you're like,
did I give it? Yeah, I'll give it an A.
Okay, I thought you were just like.
I thought you said you give it an S. I'm like, okay, we're just 60.
I mean, I could do that if it'll make Chad happy. Next up is Majora's Mask. I gave it an A. Elias gave it a B. Mary gave it an A. Elias, how do you feel about that?
This is not as good a game as Ocarina of Time.
And yet,
how do you two feel about that statement?
I mean, I ranked it higher than Ocarina of Time.
It's not as full a game as Ocarina of Time, but it does more of a certain thing than Ocarina of Time does. It's
different enough to be considered differently, but it's just I don't know.
It was made in a year. That should be impressive.
Yeah. I could not, in good conscience, give this game an A. And I've even played it recently too. Like I don't know.
Well, Mary and I have the A's.
Some of the side quests are they pay off a little bit, but like one of the pros y'all said, like the rewards or the masks. Most of those masks don't do anything. And if you happen to do every single side quest to get every single mask and get the fierce deity mask at the end, that just takes away from the boss experience and makes it like swipe, you're done, the end.
Well, at least it's not a motorbike they give you after you beat every single thing.
Yeah.
At least you can still do the final boss.
And it's optional to use on the final boss.
Yeah, but you don't have to do every single side quest to get the motorbike.
You have to do a lot to get the motorbike.
You have to do a lot, but not everything. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You guys have me overruled here, but I'm not going to be happy about it.
All right. Okay. A it is. Next up is Wind Waker. I give it a B. Elias gave it a B. Mary gave it an S. So
can we compromise and just give it an A?
You also have a token.
There's going to be so many A's here.
I'm saving my token. I'm afraid
so
there's going to be so many A's on this list.
Wind Waker's not her favorite game.
Wow. Wow. Well, technically, to be fair, she has the most S's out of any of us. I only had one. You only had one.
I have.
And I compromised on my S.
How many S's do you have?
Like, I think I have like 4.
She has 1, 2, 3. You have 3 S's.
Breath of the Wild, Wind Waker, and Skyward Sword.
You have Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, and Skyward Sword. No, you have 4.
I have 4.
Yeah.
Wow.
Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword, Wind Waker.
Breath put out a AAA Zelda title since the year 2000, and Mary's on board.
She definitely started playing Zelda games at a point and then went back to the older ones because those are the lowest on her list.
I can't deny that. I mean, you can tell when I started playing Zelda.
Yeah.
See,
she's the one that Final Fantasy VII was her S tier. That's the one she started playing.
I wasn't even thinking about the Triforce Hunt whenever I gave this a B. So whenever I think like, okay, maybe I come to the A, I just keep thinking of more. And there's so much tingle in it too.
They did remove some of that from the HD version.
Yeah, the remake. Yeah, like they streamlined that a bit. You still have to just throw a grappling hook into an endless blue plane on a Y-axis and hope for the best.
There's one other thing I could do.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we've got chat, right?
I just don't know if...
So if we can't come to a conclusion... Oh, by the way, my thing worked. If we can't come to a conclusion, what I can figure is we bring chat into this.
Well, I want to before we
Chat.
entertain chat, who's just going to be chaos incarnate.
That's right.
What are you thinking? Are you still sticking with B with this?
Yeah, because I feel like even with the improvements in the HD version, it's still not my favorite. And I compromised earlier, and I no longer wish to compromise.
I mean, I did too. With Ocarina of Time and Zelda, and I didn't with Zelda and with Majora's Mask, and you still overruled me. So
yeah,
you
want to stick to your guns?
I'm willing to compromise and give it an A.
I can bring Chad into this, and we can give them two choices, S or B, and
S
they
or
can.
B?
Yeah, because she was the
this
one that
is
gave
not
me,
an S game.
Yeah,
she gave it an S, and she ain't backing. Oh, where you? I guess you are willing to back down.
I was willing to compromise. Elias is not accepting my compromise, though.
I'm thinking about A still, but it will never be S.
Well,
compromising to A is the only way to prevent it from being an S. Like,
can we? All right. So how about let me bring Chad into this?
Chad's gonna side with me.
Let's bring Chad into this. All right. If I do Wind Waker, I almost called it Wink Waker. Nope. Chat. I almost called it No, I'm making the worst words. Yikes.
Chat, I love you.
So we're giving it an A. We're giving it a B. Chat, you have.
I want you to look at this chat and see the lack of S's when they talk about Wind Waker.
They are saying that they will accept my compromise for A.
Well, they got to put it in the poll that I just put up.
Chat, please. Please.
You got to vote. I'll give you I'll give you maybe 1 minute. Maybe even less.
There's a 10-second delay, so you got 50 seconds.
Yeah.
No, technically, it actually works pretty well. It will refuse to show until it actually shows up. When I hit enter now, it'll show up at the video at the point of which I hit enter. It's weird, but it works. All right, we have 4 votes already.
I'm afraid to see what it is. I haven't done anything.
Right now, it's 4 votes for A.
I can't see the results without voting, so I just have to
vote. That's what I'm doing. I'm like, I'm not going to vote. I'm going to be good.
I mean, to be fair, if you vote, it's really not going to matter. I'm the only one who can't vote because it's my poll. All right, so we have 1 minute. We've got 4 votes for A. I think we're going to go with A.
Thank you, chat, for voting for A.
Oh, you meant when you said 4 votes, you just meant 100% of the vote.
It was 100% of the vote.
All right. Worse things could happen.
All right. So, thank you, chat, for doing that. Next up is Minish Cap. And with Minish Cap, I gave this a B. Elias gave it an A. Mary gave it an A.
I mean, yours was primarily 100% based, right? Which, to be fair, this is probably one of the worst games to 100%.
Yeah, there are worse.
If you could count figurines.
Oh shit! Yeah, you're right.
RNG nonsense.
It's just a game that I wouldn't go back to, and if I did, I would definitely not 100%. But there's a lot to it. So, with Ocarina of Time, I'm not going to get 100 gold Skulltulas anymore, but I will get 50.
It's not as good as some of the other A games, but I still am comfortable saying it with an A. But the thing is, I rarely ever feel the need to 100% Zelda games. Sometimes I'll go for all the heart pieces, but it's usually not something.
Well, and that's the only reason why I would go for the 50 for the gold Skulltula, because 50 gets you the heart piece. So, I think for that, I just give it a B because of the extra nonsense. But if you skip it, I could see it being an A.
I mean, you gave it what, Mary? An A or a B?
I gave it an A. Because, I feel like a B is too low.
I think we do A or B with Chad again to help us.
Yeah.
All right, Chad.
I'll accept that.
We're going to need your help again. Let's do...
Please help.
Minish Cap. A. B. If anything, I shouldn't be thinking about how we have way too many A games. And maybe I should have stood my ground on giving one of these an S, but well, we have plenty of S's later.
Yeah, thanks to me. Putting 4.
We have plenty of S's to go around. Are we on main? There we go. I'm just a little behind. Okay. All right. Well, we got 4 votes already. 3 for A. Time. Yeah, I think we got 4 voters. So we got 3 for A, and we have 1 for B. So I will go with the majority ruling there and give it an A.
Okay. At least it was a more split poll than last time.
Yes. All right. This is basically going to be a 3-fingered hand.
What?
I'm looking at it. Hold on. Let me go back to footage.
Hang on. I got to pull up this stream. I'm looking at my...
Yeah. Give it 10 seconds. While we wait, the next game on the list is Twilight Princess.
I will use my stubborn token.
All right.
However that works.
You were also like outbid me like 2 S's to a C, so there you go. All right, we finally have an extra ligament appeared on the hand with Twilight Princess. Next up, we've got Spirit Tracks. I didn't rank it, but Elias gave it a D, Mary gave it a C, so it's up to both of y'all again.
It's better than Phantom Hourglass. You have to give it that.
Better in what way?
Like, at least like it's fun to play. You get Zelda and the music. It's just better than Phantom Hourglass.
Yeah, but is it better enough to be a C?
I think so. Don't let your hatred of trains.
I don't hate trains. I take trains all the time.
Train murdered my father.
I'm obsessed with them. Yeah, fine. Okay.
All right, Spirit Tracks gets a C, but I'm gonna put it underneath the original Zelda. All right.
Okay.
All right, 3 more games. Got A Link Between Worlds. Yet another one I didn't play, but Elias gave it an A. Mary gave it a B. Discuss.
What's that? Link Between Worlds? Yeah, this is another border one, I think, because it's one like downside is can really get to you if you die a lot. It's not super user friendly. Because I don't remember.
I did hear people complaining it was pretty hard.
Yeah.
In that game, it also had some like side quest content with like the shadow links, I think, right? And didn't mess with any of that too much.
Yeah, I didn't do the shadow link stuff. I'm trying. Yeah.
I mean, what is Majora's Mask an A? Like, if that's an A, this is definitely an A. Like, come on.
What?
Not to overcrowd the A column here, but man, I gotta stay my ground sometimes, you know.
I don't know. Like I said, I just can't put it in the A category for some reason. I don't know. Like and especially looking at all the other games in the A category, I'm like, I just like so many other games more than it.
All right, chat.
What about if you look in the B category? Hang on, I gotta look at the B category.
There's nothing.
That's where I have it.
There's nothing there.
There's no middle finger on this hand.
It will be the B game.
A Link Between Worlds.
Oh, you took it away.
A Link Between Worlds, because it's got an A and the B in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Chad, it's up to you. A or B. We've got
and you
4 voters.
Too.
I can't. I really have not played it.
I've just seen any
Link Between Worlds. No. I maybe played a demo. But I have not played or heard enough of it for me to make my own decision. Somebody telling me that the game might be hard in the beginning is not really something for me to determine until I actually play it.
What I'm thinking, Mary, is you played this before A Link to the Past. Is that right?
What year did it come out?
I don't remember.
2014.
I'm thinking
15.
you might have done that, right? You enjoyed it for what it was, and then you played A Link to the Past with some sour taste in your mouth about it or something, and then went back and
your
played
your secret hate of A Link Between Worlds.
and it reminded you also of A Link to the Past.
That's
and
right.
You're just like,
I
no.
loved it the first time I played it. It's just when I played it recently, I wasn't.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
It's after A Link Between Worlds put a bad taste in your mouth. That's right.
After A Link to the Past did.
No, I played A Link to the Past in like 2012, 2013. So it was before this game came out.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
so I played this game at launch.
Maybe you just didn't like this version of open world after playing Breath of the Wild.
I don't know.
I don't know how I feel about that. Well, let me tell you how.
I'm just trying to tell you how you think.
Yikes. Just like a man.
Elias, I know where you live.
Now I know the gamer girl experience.
I know that you don't get enough men on podcasts telling you how to think.
God.
Wow, a white guy on a podcast speaking for a woman? Say it isn't so.
No. My other podcast hosts are wonderful. it's the people. No, it's the TikTok commenters.
Well, what I can tell you from chat is that we got 5 votes in.
So it can't be a tie.
So it can't be a tie. Not possible. It wasn't even close to a tie. We've got 20% for A. 80% voted for B.
You
used your stubborn token already. Too late.
Yeah. I had to. Look whose podcast I'm on.
It's me, a white guy, with a podcast. Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, man. Well, wonders never cease. All right. Well, thanks, chat. All right, let me end the poll there. All right, thanks for that. So now B isn't so lonely.
There's no way this came out before Skyward Sword.
No, Link Between Worlds? No. It came out in 2013.
Yeah. Did we already do Skyward Sword?
Whoops. Anyway, Skyward Sword's next.
Stubborn token.
All right.
Keep it.
I cannot believe Skyward Sword is S rank on this list.
Thank you, Masano, for the stubborn tokens.
Were a mistake.
Oh, they're great. I love them. We did, so the last episode we did was Ratchet and Clank. It went way faster. This was actually kind of nice because we actually had debate rounds. Like, it was me, Josh Jepson, and Jacob, secret agent. And we were way too nice to each other. And we also agreed on a lot of the games, if I remember correctly.
I had a whole mental outline in defense of Twilight Princess ready to go, and then you introduced this concept of stubborn tokens. I'm like, oh, well, never mind.
Yeah, no, you don't need it. You really don't. I love it. I mean, honestly, I could use, if I had a stubborn token, I could give any of these an F if I wanted to, or a D. Yeah. But right now we are at probably the most split, technically, of all of these is Breath of the Wild. I gave it a B. Elias gave it an A. Mary gave it an S. No more stubborn tokens. Oh, wow, really?
Wait, would you use your stubborn token on? I forgot.
Who, me? I used my stubborn token on Ocarina of Time because I wanted to speed things up.
Okay.
Should have given it an S, really.
That's right.
But also, I don't feel like using the stubborn token on Breath of the Wild, where I'm just kind of, I'm more willing to, let's talk some, what can you offer me for a compromise?
I mean, we all said our piece, I think, when we talked about our rankings, and I feel like the ultimate compromise would just be to go to A.
Yeah, I mean, I cannot give it an S.
That's where I put it, but
yeah.
But S for Prince Sidon.
Oh my goodness!
Could have had your stubborn token for that.
No, I saved it for the proper S.
Yeah, I would have felt. I've been a lot more comfortable giving this game an S than Skyward Sword. I'll tell you that.
Why didn't you?
Because you already used it.
Because you've used your stubborn token. It's why.
Here's the
So why
thing.
didn't you just give it an S?
You
Elias?
didn't even have to use it. Both you and Mary could have been like, we like it as an S, and I couldn't really say anything about it. It's almost a waste when you think about it.
I needed some guarantees.
Same.
So I can well, this might be a little bit more split to give the chat. I'm more willing to give a compromise and say that it is an A, but I cannot put it in like, I can't put Breath of the Wild in my top 3. I could probably put it in my top 5.
I mean, Mary, you've played like Zero Dawn and stuff like that. Like there is definitely stuff in Breath of the Wild that's better than that, but games like that show that they could have done a little more.
To be fair though, I feel like Horizon Forbidden West goes too far in that direction.
West is
Yeah, but
I fell asleep sometimes. I fell asleep sometimes.
If we're talking about rankings, I give Forbidden West a 6 out of 10. Like I struggle.
Also talking about Breath of the Wild.
Why did it all have to be voice acted? Why?
Like weapon breaking. If they had just added like a repair mechanic, like that takes away so much of the anxiety around like the weapon breaking too.
I suppose,
or like some kind of like a buyback, like with the Hylian shield, right?
Or at least like you have the minerals and then you don't use any of them, and then you find out you use it as fossil fuel for your bike you get after you beat the game.
Well, that's what it became once the DLC.
Oh yeah, we have way too much of this ore. Yeah, I can't make it. I can't make it an S. I can't do that, but I'm willing to give it an A.
Hold on, where is
I compromised on so many games, Mary.
So many. My top 5 Zeldas. I have my own separate pulled up.
It's in your top 5. There's only 2 S's on this group list. It can still be in the top 5 technically. It's just a 2-way. It's a 6-way tie or whatever.
I can compromise and let it be an A.
Okay.
All right.
We didn't have, unfortunately, chat. We didn't have to bring you in. Well, actually, I won't take it into consideration. But when I place this in the vote, because I did randomly, I like to keep them entertained on their toes. We got 6 votes, and of those 6 votes from chat, 3 of them, 50%, voted S. 33% voted A, and 16% voted B. So,
yeah, no one agrees with your B.
Apparently, no. Look, I'm just not as all over it as everybody else is.
I mean, I'm not all over it. Like, I've been saying forever, I should do a master mode run. I haven't.
No, absolutely not. Dude, I haven't even done all of the first DLC. I did all of DLC 2. I'm not doing that. I don't care if it gives me 10 more points in attack.
I think I did. But then also there's like a glitch that makes it super easy to do.
I found out long after the fact. All right, we have finished. We have made the best, most, hi Kyrie, definitive Zelda tier list ever.
I feel like this is, yeah.
Any complaints?
I have several.
Go to @MagicCody on Twitter.
Don't cue him up like that. He's just gonna take it as a thing to do like several polls.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
and then Mary's gonna have to deal with it.
Too late. We're already sending it to Twitter.
I have to start preparing myself.
Boy, I sure hope nobody put any thirst trapping on my Twitter feed.
I really hope someone did.
Let's just get rid of the hashtag there. All right.
That's a thirst trap, right?
Yeah, everyone loves Hatsume Miku Joker.
Who the what? Joker?
Or, whoever that person is from Evangelion. All complaints go to @MagicCody.
2 spaces before ever.
Blame the API. Is there a train running behind one of y'all?
Do not worry about it.
Oh, is that why you hate trains?
My Xbox mini fridge decided to start making a little more noise than usual over the past couple days.
That's your Xbox mini fridge? It sounds like a train. from
it
far
sounds
away.
a lot worse than it actually sounds.
I get to see if I can give y'all some Kyrie ASMR. She's
There we
I
go.
accidentally like kneed it with my knee the other day, and it just started like making that sound. I was worried I broke it, but everything's fine. It's just
all right. You want to know what'll make this? You want to know what'll make this even better? Here, let's put some icing on this cake. Okay.
I love how the preview doesn't even show the actual ranks.
Yeah, it does.
A little bit.
Oh.
What's the icing? What icing are you looking at here?
Let's see. Accounts.
Uh-oh.
Universe.
Uh-oh.
Let us retweet this as. There we go.
Amazing.
All right, perfect. We've done it. So that'll be a fun Thursday for everyone at Zelda Universe.
Subverting Mary right in front of her.
Yeah.
That's why you don't give me any power at all. Anyway, so hey, we did it. We made the best, most definitive, cannot be argued with Zelda ranking list ever. Chat is happy. Everyone's happy. Kyrie is happy. President Biden, Medal of Honor for all of us. Amazing job, everybody. Presidential pardons for everybody. I don't know what y'all did.
I needed that, actually.
But I know what I did, so thank God this worked out. Thank you, everyone in chat, for being here and talking with us. It was really nice to just get to, like, it's fun to talk with other Zelda people here, but it's also nice that, like, chat gets involved and has fun, or maybe you just lurked and listened while you were doing homework or mowing the lawn or whatever it is you do on a Thursday night. Oh,
I'm
Cody
feeling
Davies.
some people who tried to lurk, like, heard some hot take one of us did, like, okay, no, I have to type something.
Hold on.
No, exactly. That's what I want. It's a good time. Okay. But thanks for being here. Thanks for talking with me. Let's go around the table and see what you all are up to and where we can find you. So, Elias, you go first.
What am I up to? My name is Elias Thompson. I'm up to many things on my personal Twitch channel, which is twitch.tv/Elias Thompson. I am in the middle of this is such a tongue twister, Soul Link, Pokemon Heart Gold, Soul Silver, Randomizer, Nuzlocke challenge with our friend Kelly. It is a journey, especially because it is the longest Pokemon game.
Mm-hmm.
So that's happening. I believe the next one will happen tomorrow night. We're very close to taking on the Elite Four. Hopefully no one will die. But we cracked something recently. What did we crack? You'll have to stay tuned and find out. Also, I, as was alluded to, manage the Zelda Universe Twitch channel, and things are coming there very, very soon. So keep an eye on that.
Awesome. And Mary, where can we find you and what are you up to?
You can find me on my personal channels. I'm Mary Wants a Cookie on Twitter and Twitch. I am currently suffering through the end of Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn, but I'm gonna beat it one of these days after I just do a lot of math. I'm serious. I'm doing math to beat this game. But you can also find me hanging out as a co-host for the Destructoid Show over on Destructoid's TikTok. We're doing some pretty fun stuff over there. So check it out.
That's some of the stuff I've already seen, like, because it gets posted to Twitter sometimes. It's good stuff. I don't have a TikTok. I'm too old.
I thought I was too old, but there's apparently
Don't fool yourselves.
There's content for all ages, mainly just elder millennials and below, but
Sure, I'm sure. I can't figure out how to get it on my phone. I need my child to help me. Anyway, so with that, and yeah, if you're watching this and you haven't done it yet, why not hit the subscribe button? There's way more content here. There's like 35 episodes of this show, and I have other podcast things that you can watch and listen to as well while you're mowing the lawn, because that's a thing that I do when I do podcasts, so I assume other people do it too. And if you like video games, you can also follow me on twitch.tv at LaughingBoyLP. It piqued his interest. Got Elias interested.
I do, in fact, like video games.
Yeah. So if you go to twitch.television, don't look at any of the other channels, all right? They don't really like video games, okay? Go to Laughingboy LP. He loves video games. I don't know him, but I hear he's great. No relation. So you can find me on Twitch. You can find me here on YouTube. You know, I'm trying to get, it'd be great to get to 10 more subscriptions. I get to 1,400. Crazy.
Nice.
Very nice.
Crazy.
We want you to subscribe.
Do it. And then if you like Spotify, if you're one of those people, you just want to listen to the audio and you get all the weird visual context clues that I say look at the screen and you can't because you're on Spotify. DialogBOX, all one word. Just search for it. It's there. There's a floater right in front of my camera.
Oh, I saw it.
There it goes. Make a wish. So with that is our episode for the month. Join us next time when I may or may not be, you'll never know, get drunk talking about Kingdom Hearts. Goodbye.
That's going to be so bad.